Serious. What's the worst thing somebody has ever done to you? Attention. Serious. Tag notice, jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. When I was in my early 20s, I was randomly assaulted while walking home after a night of drinking. I have no idea who it was to this day, but I was knocked out cold and later woke up lying in a pool of my own blood. What actually hurt more is that when I woke up, I saw a couple walking by and I called out for them to help me. They laughed at me and kept walking. I can relate. I got jumped by a group of 10 or 11 teenagers 5 or 6 years ago for no reason. They were laughing the whole time. The two worst parts are that another random teenager not affiliated with them was walking by and just randomly joined in on the beatdown. The other is that some guy was sitting on his front porch watching, and instead of helping or calling the cops he was yelling, "Yeah, fuck that cracker up." I still have a big scar, hole in the back of my head from it. Doesn't even compare to the ones posted so far, but one time my friend and roommate, at the time, got us both evicted, then saddled me with about $7,000 worth of cleaning bills and bailed. The next apartment I got would only accept me if I prepaid the entire year. That was a fun experience. How are you doing now? My wife's friend was just murdered by her husband a week ago, and it was in front of their 11-year-old daughter. My wife has been pretty upset about this. She feels most terrible for the daughter who had to witness it and called the police. She has been worried about how this will affect the daughter long term. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I was driving down a road that wasn't the school zone but was full of kids walking home because school just got out. Some idiot girl pushed her friend out into the street in front of my car. Luckily I was able to stop in time. I have been in car accidents and had some close calls and always remain calm in those situations. But this one, I have never been so adrenaline-fueled with rage and terror. I yelled at the girl from my car. I wanted to get out and give her a damn lecture for being an idiot, but I drove down until the next side street and pulled over to call the principal of the school the girl just came from. No one was available to take my call. I don't even remember what I said in my voicemail, but I'm sure it wasn't pleasant. It took me the entire rest of the evening to calm down. I don't even know if that girl understood the potential consequences of what she did. My GF left me after cheating for months to be with her married BF. He had a third kid on the way with his wife. I was 2 weeks away from proposing, was just waiting for a meteor shower. Devastated. Edit. Much appreciation for everyone's kind words. This happened years ago. I suppose I left out the fact that dude was her boss as well. So yeah. Bullet dodged. I don't know much about what happened, but I do know they split up and she emailed me about how I was right about it not being a good idea and all that. Never responded. Felt there was no need. Oh, I have so many. One of the worst was when I was 18 and living with my mom. She met a new guy and was going to move in with him with my brother who was 8. She said there wasn't room for me. She left me in the house we were living in until the official move-out date. Heat and electricity were turned off. Thankfully it wasn't too cold out. I was there for about a week or two before I got my own place. My mom broke up with that guy after like 8 months. Had nowhere to go, so she moved in with me. It didn't last long and I moved elsewhere. It really summed up my entire childhood with her. When I was 17 a guy cut me off at the skate park, and so naturally I was like, whoa dude, but in a pretty chill shit happens and I'm just trying to skate here kind of way. He did not react that way at all, and decided it was time to fight, then and there, as children on scooters darted around us and other dudes surrounded us. Guy was easily in his mid-20s, covered in gang tats, and in hindsight only at the skate park to fuck with some West Side dudes and get into a fight, rob someone. As I went to put my hands up, someone in the crowd held my hands behind my back and homie sucker punched me and kneed me in the ribs. At that point his friend let me go and they both kicked me while I was on the ground. My friends got over there and broke it up before they could do more damage, but this fuck pulled out a big knife and everyone was just like okay cool, thanks for totally ruining the entire day and vibe with your dumb gang shit. And he and his partner in crime just started grabbing random backpacks and shit before they skated away laughing. And this concluded easily the most cowardly thing anyone has ever done to me. Broke my nose and my jaw. And TBH, it was probably all just the plan. Dude who started the fight got shot and killed about 2 months later, and you know what? I don't give a fuck. The other dude is a heroin addict now, so good for him. I had a friend get accused of stealing at a grocery store. Turns out one of the shift managers who accused him was actually doing the stealing, and using my friend as an excuse. Target of accusation for the missing money. They found out after he had been suspended, but there was still money coming short on one of the shifts he wasn't there for. He quit afterwards anyways because being accused of stealing doesn't make for the friendliest work environment. Same. Was accused of stealing phone cards from a video rental store I worked at. Yeah, I'm old. Told them I had no reason to as I actually had my cell service through the same business. But they just said I was pocketing the cash. They offered to let me keep my job if I fessed up to it and repaid the missing money. Proud to say at even 19 years of age I had the integrity to say number. I didn't take anything and I've been a good employee. I won't admit to a crime I didn't commit. Some months later the real culprit was found. No apologies were given. I was very happy to see that place was out of business a few years later. I lost a job because a register came up $50 short under my login. Turned out later that it was a manager using my login because they forgot their own who got quick changed by a scammer and didn't want to admit it, so I got blamed. CCTV showed I wasn't even in the store at the time. Never got an apology, nor did I get my job back. Not that I wanted it anyways. Fuck them. When I was around 8-10 years old, my dad's longtime girlfriend made me eat out of the trash. She had been emotionally abusing me since age 7, but this is one of most evil things I can think of. It all starts when she makes me a sandwich for lunch with some really gross old stale bread. I couldn't finish it, so I buried it deep in the trash. When she asked me if I finished it, I lied so I wouldn't get in trouble. There were a multitude of punishments for this. I didn't do a very good job lying, so she knew right away. She digs through the trash and finds the bread, stating you don't get anything else to eat until you finish this. This bread is covered in old coffee grounds, trash juice and who knows what else. After a few hours all I had managed to do was break it into a million crumbs, so she put it in a bowl and gave me a spoon. Dinner rolls around and she decides to take us to my favorite restaurant where I have to sit and watch my whole family eat while she tells the server that I'm not hungry lol. The next morning comes and my breakfast is this huge bowl of trash breadcrumbs. My dad sneaks me some grape juice around lunchtime as if that's any help. It's worth mentioning that my dad was so in love with her and probably scared of her too, that he didn't question any of her actions. A few hours after the juice I start barfing out of nowhere. I don't know if it was from something in the trash or just because trying to eat those crumbs made me so nauseous, but I couldn't stop the purple vomit escaping my mouth. She starts screaming at me to clean it up and I do. I guess the vomiting worried her enough because after I cleaned it up I finally got to eat something small before dinner and still remember the joy I felt as I watched her pour the bowl of crumbs back into the trash. I brought this incident up a few years after it happened and she yelled at me to get over it and to never bring it up again because I was just trying to make her feel bad. 10 years later and I'm still sitting here like WTF was wrong with her. She's still with your dad? Question mark. After all this? Question mark. I'm a lady, and I'll tell you no dick is so good that I would decide to side with the man abusing my kids. Alternatively, there is no pussy so good that you opt to let that woman abuse your kid in an effort to not lose that pussy. I'm so so sorry that no one in that house was looking out for you, unless she was literally abusing the fuck out of your dad as well. There is no excuse for what she did to you. I hope you're doing well, and I really hope I'm just misreading the situation, and this sorry excuse for a stepmother figure is long gone from both you and your dad's lives. My Christ. Made me a widower at 20. Drunk driver crossed into her lane. He only got a few years for it and I imagine he's been released now. Edit. This kinda blew up and I'm getting overwhelmed with notifications. Thank you everyone for your kind words. I'm exhausted and not in a great place in life at the moment, but I'm trying my best. When I was like 12-13, my best friend was killed by drunk driver. Guy was on the clock driving a dump truck to a construction site at like quadruple the legal limit. T-boned my friend's dad's car and killed my friend. His dad lived through it and ended up taking his own life about 10 years later after the guilt of surviving ate him up. The driver got 18 months and returned to work upon release. The penalties for taking a life while driving impaired are a joke. I am really sorry this happened to you. I can't imagine what you've been through. Members of my extended family made fun of my handicapped sibling. In response, I almost got into a physical altercation with one of my uncles, but my mom had to literally dig her nails into my skin and practically sit on top of me to stop me. Apparently, my family have been making fun of my sibling for years and decided to show how they truly felt about them at that moment. God help me if I ever see those people again. Hey brother, had a similar thing happen. GF of 5 years left the house with my dog and called to break up with me over the phone on Christmas Day after she came and moved out. Had that dog for years. Pets are like your child. Lot of people don't realize how traumatic it can be. The level of entitlement and betrayal is the icing on the cake. PM me if you ever need to talk about it. Let's call him Jeff. Adopts me when he marries my mom. I'm 4. They divorce. I'm 10. Starts to beat and abuse me. At 15 I stand up for myself and get my ass beat bad at a campground. Neighbor saw and got involved physically. Police get called. Turns out neighbor, Joe, has warrants. Cops don't believe me and Jeff says it was all from Joe. Take him to court, get child services involved, and to this day I don't know how but he wins. The kicker, it's revealed he's not my biological father. A lot started to make sense. Cut all ties. Find out when preparing for college he's drained my savings account which my grandparents set up for me. Silver linings, I'm 31 now with a loving wife and daughter. I will never be like him. But a roommate used my laptop to download child porn while I was at work, get caught by our other roommate, and then take my laptop to the police and blame his crime on me. Spent a year and a half and end out of court under investigation before I was finally exonerated. In the meantime I was forced to find different living arrangements. Then my new home got burned to the ground and I lost everything I owned. My significant of over a year and a half ghosted me completely, only to message 4 months later to tell me she was 3 months pregnant with another man's baby and it was over between us. I got fired and lost all form of income, and my reputation was so destroyed I had complete strangers pass me on the street and call me pedophile. In the end I was forced to move several states away and back in with my parents in my mid-20s and begin to attempt to rebuild my life with the whole $34 I had to my name. So that was fun. I have worked in the criminal justice system in different facets over the years. Many years ago, I was dealing with a guy facing some similar charges, but incest-related. Big, heavy-set fella. We used to talk about health. I would talk to him about healthy eating, losing weight, taking care of himself, etc. He was very polite, kept saying justice would be served. So one day I'm off on holidays and he had his trial and he was completely acquitted. So I come back and my colleague said, "Oh, Joe was looking for you," and I thought maybe he was confused and thought his case was still ongoing. So the guy calls me and said, "Oh hi Joe, your case is done, I hope your lawyer let you know." And he said something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, I know. I just wanted to call and thank you for being so good to me." If I was in your shoes, I don't think I could have been so kind. After seeing those allegations, that always stuck with me. living in an abusive household, getting proverbially stabbed in the back by my then best friend, seeing my brother's ruin due to alcoholism. Anyways, I'd say I'm quite good by now. Edit. Also, of course, I do not wish to imply that my brother's alcoholism is personally worse for me than it is for him. I just think this hit me very hard, witnessing my brother, who was my idol during my youth, ruining himself so much, knowing that I could and can do basically nothing to help him, while his alcoholism also ruins our brotherly bond. That kinda broke me. I have a few, but I suppose context matters. Had a father pull a gun on me at the front door of his house because my girlfriend at the time's cousin told him I got the GF pregnant. I didn't. Had a knife pulled on me on the school bus in 6th grade. Now the good ones are from the spawn of Satan known as my stepmother. She's tried to kill me twice. Once she unbuckled my seatbelt, reached over, opened the door of the car while we were on the interstate and tried to push me out. I only made it because I grabbed the gear shift to stay. The second time she had a knife to my throat, and the only thing that saved me was my dad came home from work early. Of course my dad didn't believe it any time. She got a pituitary tumor which ended up disfiguring her, so I suppose a natural justice was reached. My boyfriend at the time had a baby with his ex-GF, and 2 months after that he left on deployment. He didn't set up anything regarding child support with her, so he left it up to me and her to figure it out. We ended up where he sent me money to give to her each month, but it was stressful trying to reach that point. Since he was on deployment, I took on his role a bit and took care of the baby part-time. It was a really weird, rough situation because I didn't feel the mother was a very responsible person. Anyways, it was a stressful mess. I did all this because I loved him and the baby so much. 2 months into him being back home from deployment, my brother unexpectedly died from an AD. My brother had PTSD and TBI from an AD accident in Afghanistan and was really struggling being back home and out of the military. I was completely heartbroken and fucked up from his passing and needed my BF's support more than ever. I hadn't actually been through anything hard yet that the BF needed to support me through, but I had done it for him the majority of our relationship. Well, that boyfriend ended up dumping me a month and a half later. I've never felt so much heartbreak and loss in my entire life. I literally felt like I could die from how badly I hurt. My father ditched me on my mother's funeral. We never had a father-daughter relationship. My parents were divorced, but he showed up every now and then because somehow he was still friends with my mother and her sister. My mother got cancer and died, and at the day of the funeral I stood there with my aunts and uncles giving everybody a hand and hearing the condolences. I don't know how to decide that. And then I saw him walking into the room with a white rose and walking straight to the room where my mother's casket was. Apparently he placed the rose there and left off the emergency exit. And I never saw him again. I already didn't really like him, but that stunt made me hate him. It confirmed that he was there for my aunt. They fought the day before. He had a crush on her and she didn't like him like that, and the guy can't handle no, and he never gave a shit about me, and I will never forgive him for it. It's been 9,5 years now, and I still haven't heard a single word of him, and I hope he will rot in hell. My battery when I was in the army made a betting pool on when I'd commit suicide. I found out it had spread to the motor pool battery and a few NCOs at headquarters that didn't like me. I hear the pool got up to $4.5 thousand. They started actively trying to make my life worse by the end in order to make sure they won on their days. Things like getting my girlfriend drunk and sleeping with her, making sure I had staff duty every weekend, counseling me on things they made me do to give me Article 15 so they could put me on extra duty. One of the NCOs denied my leave request when my uncle died, and I overheard him bragging to one of his drinking buddies that the pot was as good as his. I got in a very serious car accident and could have died. I called my at the time fiancée to tell her what happened, and she didn't even care. She just wanted more money because I was too dumb to realize at that time that she was literally just using me. She was too stupid and irresponsible to take care of her own problems and would always manipulate and gaslight me to force me to pay for things, even if I couldn't, and she knew I couldn't. I lost a lot because of her. and she didn't even care. Yeah, there's a reason she's an ex.